Extra special thanks to Cincy Music for co-hosting My Favorite Album is Terrible. For the best in what Cincinnati's amazing local music scene has to offer, be sure to follow them on Instagram at Cincy Music, that's Cincy with a Y, on Facebook at cincymusic.com, also Cincy with a Y, and on their official website, www.cincymusic.com. Here's the show. Hello. Happy Thursday evening. I'm Kent Mulcahy with the Cincinnati and Hamilton County Public Library, and welcome to tonight's episode of My Favorite Album is Terrible, the music show where every other Thursday night, right here at 8 p.m., we discuss misunderstood, unloved, or overlooked albums. Tonight's album, once we get there, definitely, I would call this an unloved album, and we'll see where we land on that term by the end of the discussion. So everything that we talk about tonight is going to be available to you for free with your Cincinnati and Hamilton County Public Library card. Most of the music that we talk about is going to come from our streaming services, Freegal and Hoopla. Tonight's selection comes from Hoopla, which is a streaming service, and it's so much more than just music. Yes, it's music, but it's also comic books, audiobooks, movies, everything. It's a wonderful service. It's just kind of amazing how much is available on Hoopla, so make sure you check that out. Check the comments for all those links. Speaking of the comments, if you have thoughts about the album that we're discussing tonight, and I think some of you will, or if you have suggestions for an album we should cover in the future, or a guest that we should have on, I've really enjoyed having local Cincinnati personalities, musicians and otherwise on this show. I'm totally open to suggestions and would love your selections, actually. So send those my way, and also jump in and talk about the album. I'd love to argue with you about this album tonight. So before we talk about the album, let's talk about our guest. I am very excited to have Jaki Howser, aka MADQUEEN, on tonight. Jaki is the front woman, songwriter, driving force behind MADQUEEN. She's also a high school music teacher, and she is the auxiliary instrumentalist in the local band Young Heirlooms. I'm very excited to talk to her about, some things she has going on. She's recording new music. She's gone back, finally to playing live music again, which everyone's excited about. So we're going to chat about all of those things, and we are going to chat about the album that she picked. Oh boy. The album that Jaki picked is Smash Mouth's Astro Lounge. I really don't think I need to do much of an introduction to Smash Mouth. Other than to say, hey now, you're an all-star. You might also know them as the band whose lead singer allegedly might be Guy Fieri. You might also know them as the band whose CD was the first CD that your little brother bought, and you tormented him mercilessly then, and you torment him mercilessly now about that. That might also be unique to me. I don't know if that's a universal touchstone to Smash Mouth's music for everyone, but yeah, that's kind of where I am with Smash Mouth. All right, so before we bring on Jaki to talk about Astro Lounge, let's listen to a clip of MADQUEEN's music. All right, and we are back with Jaki Howser. We just listened to a clip from MADQUEEN's Amish. Definitely go check out some more MADQUEEN stuff. Jaki, how are you doing this evening?
Oh, I'm doing awesome. How are you doing?
I'm glad to finally get this recorded. This may be the most rescheduled, rethought interview in the history of local Cincy music interviews, most of which was my fault, so very excited. So, we did just listen to a clip, but I always like to ask for local musicians, even though it can be a bit of a reductive question, and I don't mean it that way, but what are some, for fans, of? Like if someone liked the clip they just heard, or if maybe they are just curious about more of what MADQUEEN sounds like, what are some other artists? If you like them, you'll probably like MADQUEEN.
I love At the Drive-In, which
Ah,
sounds nothing like MADQUEEN, but a lot of
no.
influences come from there. The Vines, I don't know if you remember them back in the day.
I do
Yeah.
remember the Vines, yes.
So good.
That they were part of that the bands, the Hives, the Vines, the Stroke. Yeah.
Yeah, I love them. If you were to say that I sound like something, I guess maybe Paramore would be a little bit closer. It's a little bit more pop, rock, punk.
Oh
kind
yeah.
of feel.
Yeah, I
So,
can hear that. Yeah, I definitely hear the rock aspect. You're right. I would have never gone with At the Drive-In, but I can hear kind of like a controlled influence of them, like sneaking the poppy stuff into that. Yeah, I love your music. The second that I wanted to start doing these, I was like, I really want to have MADQUEEN on. So thank you for that.
Hey, I'm glad you like my songs.
Yeah. So you, as I mentioned in the introduction, you are a music teacher. And I would assume that meant that, you went to music school, did all that stuff. Were you a vocal specialty or were you an instrumental specialty when you did your degree?
Kind of both. So my degree was in worship ministry.
Okay.
So that just meant that I studied music theory in college. I studied oral training. I studied all of the like theory-esque things, but then focused on multiple instruments because as a worship leader, as a church musician, what I felt was valuable is to learn guitar, learn piano, learn vocals, so then I could teach my teams those same things. And so those were my primary focuses. I studied classical guitar for a year in college, and then I switched over to piano as a focus and voice as a focus. So
What was your first instrument when you first got into music then?
clarinet.
Okay. So after all of that, what would you say is your main instrument now?
Drums.
Okay, I was wondering if that was where it was going to go. Yeah.
Yep.
So if people look at clips of MADQUEEN playing, you'll see that, she's drumming and playing, which I don't know how you do that. That's just...
I don't either. Just a lot of cardio, I guess, really helps a lot. So,
I would imagine you just have to know the songs enough to just be able to turn your brain off and just go with it.
yep, autopilot all day.
Which kind of leads me to one thing I was going to ask. So I also went to music school, and I found that after music school, when I would try to rehearse with just a rock band, my obsession with like ensemble performances and you've got to fine tune everything and like we're here to rehearse, we're not here to practice our own parts, and I would kind of like, it didn't always fit with rock music. Did you ever find that your classical training made it difficult for other band members?
Maybe language-wise, but when it came to like formats and understanding things, I felt like classical music is pop music too. Like you just have to understand where your patterns are all the time. And classical music, it might be pages before you find a pattern, but that's okay. There's one again. Usually there's a beginning and an end of a song. So, well, there always is a beginning and an end of a song. There's no song that's still playing right now.
There's got to be an example of one that there is. John Cage or something probably has a song that has never stopped and
Or the
somehow
song that never ends.
began. Yeah, and never began. I don't know.
But I actually had a friend that studied classical guitar in college, but he went the classical route, but he's a metalhead. So John Pennington, if you're watching this eventually, shout out to you, dude. He took classical guitar just so he could be better at metal guitar. So it's the same kind of thing. Like he just wanted to understand the intricacies of things. I felt like classical music. So the cool thing about where I teach, the co-teacher I work with, he's a jazz guy. So he's got that side. I am so classical that jazz is just, it's another universe to me. And I'm starting to try to dive into it because I've been so intimidated by it. But classical music and pop music, I felt like it makes sense. And there's a little bit of jazz, I guess, in MADQUEEN tunes, but honestly, it's just standard format. So
yeah. I'm almost on the exact same boat. I, too, was a metalhead who moved up here to study classical guitar. And, my journey kind of started the same on that. And, I am still so intimidated by jazz. You put a piece of paper in front of me, I can read it pretty well. But if you just say, make something up, I'm like, how? It doesn't work like that.
yeah, it's totally it's a muscle you have to develop.
Yeah, no joke. So you are in the process of recording your debut EP album. You've released a string of singles. under MADQUEEN, but I think it was just last week you were working, or the week before. Either way, how is the recording process going? Where are you doing it? Who are you playing with? And when might we expect something?
So I was in the middle of recording a full-length album. And MADQUEEN, when it first started, was just me. I played guitar, drums. I wrote all the parts and recorded them. And now I actually have a band that I feel really good about. Chris Robinson and Kyle Elkins from Young Heirlooms are now playing with me. And so I shifted the focus. We're now recording as a group. So we're recording at a place called the Tone Shop with Eric Kronstein. It's a great studio. It's brand new. He's put a lot of awesome work into it. And I can even send you some photos if you want to plug those in. But
Sure.
I'm excited to hear that product at the end because he's an incredible engineer, and we're excited to actually play. We're going to do 5 songs, 5 of our favorite songs. So all 3 of us get to vote on which ones we want on the album or the EP. So the goal is after that, then we're going to do a full length album, which we have the material for. But as you know, as a musician, this stuff is not cheap. So I want to make sure that I'm giving the most valuable product that I can with what I have. So really excited about these 5 songs. Can't wait to share them.
Did you, when you first started performing under MADQUEEN, did you see a full band coming in, or did you intend it as a kind of a solo project at first?
Full band for sure. I wanted the creative control to write some music. So this was my outlet to do that. The cool thing was when I wrote the music, then I found 3 other people at the beginning. This is 2017. Wow. And then they learned the tunes for me, with me, and we played live. So I've had a rotation of members in the group. But yeah, it's never been intended to be just me. Okay. I guess I just wanted the songwriting to be me. But now that's not even the case. Now I'm writing with the 2 other guys. So it kind of evolved into something.
Isn't it just so great how musical projects evolve? It's just,
I love it.
Love it. It's so exciting every single time. Well, you finally made your return to the live music stage on May 29th on Fountain Square. It just looked like you were having so much fun. It looked like it was just such a big release. And one thing I just kind of wanted to chat with very briefly for you, and I'll try to make my part of this concise as possible. A lot of people, it's understood that, a lot of local musicians, they aren't in it for the money. They don't even really have plans necessarily to, become famous off of it. You have secure jobs and, you just do it for the music, right? And that may be true. But I can't help but think, and I've seen you mention this in interviews, that there is a mental health aspect to it. I think musicians are creatives. That's a true stereotype. We're sensitive. We sometimes have trouble expressing ourselves. And I think that sometimes getting on stage and being, I don't want to say someone you're not, but just really putting it all out there is very therapeutic. And I didn't know if you had any thoughts on that now that you're back.
Hey, so the show was awesome. Oh my gosh. I am just so hungry to play more shows, and there's some in the books I'm really excited about. Mental health aspect. So as a musician who writes this stuff, sure, whatever, that's cool. But then when you're on stage, some people get stage fright. I don't. I'm the very opposite of that, where I feel overly confident. But when it comes to like writing the music that's involved with that, there's a lot of anxiety and depression that's written into that. And so that's what this entire, like when the full length comes out, that's the whole point of this whole thing, is to talk about like, this is my outlet to talk about what bothers me, and it needs to be documented. And then my goal is, once that's all done and documented, push it to the side, be done with it, move on. And so I think it's almost like it's therapy in some ways. People playing live, a lot of musicians will say, oh man, I just miss playing live. It's therapy to me. And yeah, I get that. Because you're doing something you're good at in front of other people, and they appreciate that. So I think that there's some like confidence that can come into that. There's also some opposite of that. I know that there's a lot of musicians that are so incredible in the area that have stage fright or have, anxiety about being around people. And so I've been thinking about this a lot, just in general with the music scene. Doesn't have to be a live performance. We've kind of shifted away from playing live, definitely during the pandemic. And so a lot of people had outlets to do live streams. And I think that made some musicians feel very comfortable.
I totally agree. Yeah.
And it's a great outlet. So now we have 2. And I think the live stream avenue is not going to die. I think it actually just blossomed during this. And live shows, I think people are hungry to go back to shows and to hear live music. So I think it's just there's an option for everybody, you know? So if you don't like being out in public and being around a bunch of people, watch a live stream. And, you know, the same thing. So to beat around the bush on that, like, yeah, mental health is definitely a thing that is involved in the music scene when you're writing music, when you're performing, when whatever you're wanting to do. The hard part is getting past it. The good part is that music usually does that. Best thing with mental health, share your art.
Yeah.
Share your art. Do art, share it.
Well, you, I think you might have shared some of your mental health issues with me when you shared the art of Smash Mouth and their 1999 album, Astro Lounge. I mean, I just feel like, you know, we should say it right at the beginning. I already said it once in the intro. I'm going to say it again. You know, again, if you haven't heard, if you don't know what we're talking about, you do. You know, hey now, you're an all-star.
You're an all-star.
Right. So you picked this album and you did this to me. So we have to talk about it now. So before we get into Astro Lounge, what was your introduction to Smash Mouth?
Oh, gosh. Let me think about that one. So growing up, we didn't have access to CDs and cassette tapes. I lived in a really small farm town. So I think there was this place called the Sundry Store who sold albums, and there was a Smash Mouth album in there, and I was like, that's my option.
Okay.
So I bought, what was the first album called?
Fush You Mang.
Fush You Mang. So that was the first one I got. And then I was able to choose what albums I wanted. I liked Smash Mouth at that point, so I got Astro Lounge because I had the hit All-Star on it. And I fell in love with the sounds on the album.
Oh, wait. So you picked up you picked up their first album, Fush You Mang, after Astro Lounge had already been out. You kind of, or
reverse. So I got that one first, and then I really liked them, so I got Astro Lounge in hopes that it was equally as good, if not better. Okay,
so I'm going to dig into Astro Lounge. I promise I'm not going to keep putting that off. So what else were you, you know, as you just said, hard to find music. I came from kind of a smallish, you know, central Kentucky town myself, so it was a little hard to find music. What else were you listening to around the time that you discovered these albums?
Oh my gosh.
Just say it. Just say it.
Well, I had access to some cassette tapes. I had Vanilla Ice's Ice Baby.
Yeah, you did.
MC Hammer.
Mm-hmm.
I had Jars of Clay, if you remember them.
Oh, I mean, I know that song. Didn't they have a song on Flood? That was the one I know. Yeah.
And then at that era, that was '99. So I was listening to a lot of Third Eye Blind, self-titled album.
It's so good. It stands up. It stands up.
It's still really good, and it's 2021.
I know.
So,
look, their second album, Blue, is really good too. If folks want to check that out.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Man, and then the only other thing I remember, it was Beastie Boys Anthology. That was the first time I ever was introduced to the Beastie Boys. Was in 1999. And
that 2-disc set that was like black and white on the cover. Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. It has all the hits on it. And then there was one other group, Dave Matthews Band, I was super huge into when I was, so Smash Mouth and Dave Matthews Band. You can't go wrong.
Did you have music friends at the time that were also listening to Smash Mouth, or were you kind of experiencing this? You were on this journey alone. Oh, no. Yeah.
Well, at least knowingly. I didn't go around my friends, dude, have you listened to Astro Lounge? I don't think I did that then. I was more like trying to fit in, so I was afraid to let people know what I liked and what I didn't like.
100%. Well, now, is this going to be the first time your bandmates have heard that you really like Astro Lounge?
Kyle and Chris, I really like Astro Lounge by Smash Mouth. It's a great album. Now they know.
All right, well, if anyone out there is looking for a band to join, there may be vacancies in MADQUEEN, so if anyone... So, we have to talk about All-Star a little bit, just a little. And, you know, by the time Astro Lounge had come out, I wasn't really... How do I say this without sounding like... I don't know, I just wasn't really listening to much radio stuff at the time. So I knew about All-Star. I knew, you know, it was in... I took my brother to... Was it in a Shrek movie? It was in some movie.
That's why it's popular now.
There it is. So I saw it there. And I hadn't listened to it for a while. I thought I hated it. When I told my spouse we were going to have to listen to Astro Lounge, she was like, oh no, All Star. Our kid now just requests All Star all the time. He's 3 because we listen to it in the car. With some distance between now and when it came out, do you have any thoughts specifically on the song All Star?
Oh, hold on. My camera just decided to stop.
It did, but you're still there. The universe doesn't want us to talk about All Star. So we kind of had a couple of technical difficulties there. We're back. As I said, maybe the universe didn't want us to talk about All Star. But now with some distance, maybe absence make the heart grow fonder. Do you have any thoughts on just the track All Star before we dive into the full album? Because I do. I have a couple.
I think it's the worst song on the album. Personal opinion.
I don't know if I would say it's the worst, but I do totally agree. It's there are better songs, and I wasn't prepared. I didn't think I was going to come away from saying that. Can you listen to All Star now, or when we were going through this, were you skipping it? Really?
I was skipping it, yeah, because I hear it all the time. I'm a high school teacher. Somehow, this song is still popular, and it's all over the school. Or it's like when COVID first hit, we had to have like washing your hands protocol, and they put this sign in the bathroom that says if you sing the All-Star chorus, you have then sanitized your hands completely. So like singing the song while you're washing your hands, like, hey now, you're an all-star, get your game on, go play, hey now.
That's enough.
Yeah, right?
No.
It is enough. I know, I'm sorry, I did that a little bit too long.
That's why we didn't stop the pandemic, because people were like, it's not worth singing All-Star. That's why.
But yeah, I just don't think it's the strongest song. I think it's the song they wrote for the radio.
I agree. Well, actually, this is one of those fabled incidents, I think, of the record label was like, we need a hit, and they just cranked this out.
I mean, it is a catchy tune.
Yes. It's well written, whether you like it or not. And I would challenge anyone, especially music snobs, I'm not going to say you're going to come away liking the song. There's a couple of points. They really add little bits here and there. It's pretty much the same riff the whole time with little variations. But they do build. They could have just let it sit, but there's little notes, little accents here that build. And also from a total music nerd standpoint, this is one of the most popular songs ever, and it has a tritone chord in it. The da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Da, that's a tritone. And just as a little tangent, tritone is known as the most evil sounding chord ever written. It was actually outlawed from being played in medieval times because they thought it would summon the devil.
I have learned something new today.
Yes. So if for any other reason, go back, give All Star a chance for that. So I think, well, I don't want to be presumptuous just because I have thoughts on it. What is the secret weapon of this album, like of other one-hit wonder, and they're not one-hit wonders, but you know what I mean, like flash in the pans, somewhat kind of bands. What's the secret weapon of this album that kind of you think elevates it?
In my humble opinion, I believe it is the cross-genreing that they do, like pop and rock, but then you, like you said, you hear reggae, and you hear like the organ sound. It always reminds me of the Munsters, like just that. You know what I'm talking about? That like super thick organ.
Love it.
You didn't hear that a whole lot unless you were listening to Rancid, who had an organ solo in their tunes every once in a while. But it's more of a ska thing. They had ska going on. They had so many different styles of music that I was just so interested while it was happening. Because think about it, I was a freshman in high school when this song came out, or this album came out. And I hadn't heard all of these styles before. Like this was all new to me. So when it was all combined into one, it was like a shepherd's pie of an album. And it's it's true though. Also, I'm very hungry. I want some shepherd's pie. So
yeah, what can we do about that?
I don't know, guys. Help me out. Mashed potatoes, please.
I'm in the recipes section right now of the books, so if I see anything, I'll,
yeah, let me know. I'd like to borrow that.
Not
check
seeing
it out.
shepherd's pie for dummies at the moment, but
dang.
It's you said it was a mix of all genres, and before we started recording, I did bring up, for better or worse, this was part of that era of albums of, hey, let's do a bossa nova. Was it bossa nova? What was Lou Bega? No, mambo. Mambo number 5. So you can have a mambo hit in this era. You can have big bands coming back. And yeah, you're right. If you take some of those elements and keep the pop rock, almost pop punk elements at times on this, yeah, it's going to be pretty hard to deny that. So.
Yeah, it's just very it pulls you in for some reason because it's all foreign sounds or all sounds put together.
Yeah, and done well. Well, this kind of leads me into a question that I was going to ask that you kind of touched on already, and we're talking about the kids. So, Smash Mouth is still on their radar, and clearly that's already been answered. But I'm sure that your kids play music around them. I know some of my best memories of music when I was in middle school and high school was like the times where you got to share music with the class, and the teacher shared music. Has there been anything of like the modern era, especially, that your kids have turned you on to that you really dug?
Ooh, a lot of the students that okay. There's like two different groups of students that I teach. Some of them are really into music and others are taking the class for an elective.
Sure.
The students that take a class for an elective love Pop Smoke, all these groups that I'm just like, not for me. Yeah. It's all rap, and I'm not against it. It's just not my flavor. Mm-hmm. So, no, not on that avenue. But then there's another group of students that I teach in a rock band class who love classic rock. And I'm like, who are you? They love Metallica. They love Black Sabbath. They love all of the 80s hair metal bands. It's popular again. Every Rose Has Its Thorn, Poison. That's a huge tune right now. I don't understand, but I'm okay with it because that music is better, in my opinion, than a lot of the stuff coming out today. Not talking negatively, it's just a personal preference. But no, they haven't really gotten me into anything that I would be like, dude, this is awesome. Usually I listen to it, I'm like, they don't even know what music is yet. They haven't explored. They haven't listened to At the Drive-In.
That is sad. And you know what? I think your next semester when you come up, you should have like, a young person's guide to At the Drive-In.
A young person's guide to At the Drive-In.
And then, when they split up, I was more of a Sparta person, but that's a whole different discussion there. I can't believe Black Sabbath. Have your kids covered a Black Sabbath tune in your rock and roll class? Or is that
not yet? They've done Metallica. They did Every Rose Has Its Thorn. We've done quite a few 80s, 70s tunes. We did Kashmir by Led Zeppelin this past semester.
Did you get the strings in? Did you get the strings in by chance?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So are we in good hands? Musically?
Oh, yeah. You're in great hands. These students are going to be, they're going to be out of the water here. Like just the students that graduated this year, I'm just, if I would have had something like this in high school, I would be leaps and bounds better now. I had played clarinet in high school, so what am I doing with that now?
Yeah, nothing. A little bit of structure goes a long way, and it can still be fun. I'm definitely passionate about that. Well, I guess we can move on to just a little bit of kind of the wrap-up portion of this. So what would you say to someone who has heard All-Star, and they liked it, but they never were like, it comes up in my playlist, or I saw it in a movie. What would you say to entice them to give the rest of the album a spin?
I would give them more than just this advice to this particular album. That any song you listen to that you like, All-Star, sure. You should go to the reference point of the album and then listen to that album. So this is not a judgmental thing. This is just what I do. If I like a song that I hear on the radio, I immediately go to the album and say, okay, let's see what they really sound like. And then you find songs, you're like, who is this? What is this? And it totally transforms, and usually you don't like that song anymore, at least in my personal experiences. So that would be my advice. If you like All-Star, go listen to the album. If you don't like All-Star, go listen to the album.
So this is an impossible question, and I know that, and I'm going to put you on the spot. We call it my favorite album is terrible. We play fast and loose with that. I'm going to assume this is not your favorite album. So with that in mind, I'm not going to say what is your favorite album unless you have one. What I would say is, and I was going to try to improvise this on the fly and change it to just you. Your musical journey. What is that album that made you go, I want to learn to play my own stuff and I want to play it in a rock style?
Oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing. But
you're going to say Astro Lounge, aren't you?
No, I'm not. It's before Astro Lounge.
You can do it. It's okay.
To share this.
This is a safe space, you think.
The album is called Middle of Nowhere by Hanson.
Okay. history is going to look back favorably on Hanson.
I hope so.
I think it will. And that was the first one, right? The one with the big hit?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I haven't listened to the full album, I'm not going to lie, but I remember hearing Bop and being snobby about it and being like, I'm not gonna. But when I think Where's the Love was the second single, that's a catchy song. That is a great song.
So I was around the same age that, I do know their names. Zach Hanson was the drummer. And I was his age when he was doing that. And I said, I could be young and a musician and doing what they're doing. And so that it was more of an inspiration thing versus the quality of the music. And just seeing them doing their thing, it's like, man, I could be doing that right now. And so I started hustling when I was in 7th grade. I got a piano, I got a drum set, I got a guitar, and just started learning all the stuff. So now that you understand that when I first wrote Mad Queen, it was all me, you can thank Hanson for that.
I'm not mad about it.
I'm not
at all. Not at all. Do you remember the band Silverchair?
Yes.
Kind of had a similar thing with them. You know, I'd already been playing guitar and everything, and I was never a huge Silverchair fan, but they were teenagers too. And I remember thinking, if I'm the same age as him, what's stopping me from getting up in front of people and doing a bad Kurt Cobain impression as well? But so I did it. It didn't work. Didn't work for me. Do you have, if it's not your favorite album, do you have an album that maybe you think folks might not have listened to that is super important to you that, you know, you just like to give a shout out to?
Tame Impala, Currents.
Oh, yeah.
The whole album, front to end, is incredible. It's good vibe music. You can do your laundry. You can sip a seltzer outside. You can go on a walk. And anything that you're doing, that music puts you in a good mood.
I just did an interview earlier, and one thing that I said was, it takes talent to write music that can be obsessive headphone music and background music. And with that album, Currents, 2015, I think, something like that, you can listen to it in any number of ways. And fun. All right, so you know, we're gonna let you go here in a second. It's a long ways off the recording, the EP, full album. Do you have even just a wild guess of when folks should start looking for new music from Mad Queen?
I'm going to say Halloween time.
All right.
And it's going to be spooky.
It better be. I mean, if you're going to drop something on Halloween, you're going to have to get that right. Where can folks check out your music?
Right now, you can check some of the singles that have been released from Mad Queen on Apple Music, Spotify, Amazon Prime, all of those platforms. If you want to hear more, some stuff that hasn't been released that will be released probably in the next month or two, that would be madqueenband.bandcamp.com. And you can hear some old bands and old singles that haven't been released on top of stuff that will be released very, very, very soon.
Yeah, I always like it when people plug Bandcamp. You know, I just think it is a better way to give back to the musicians if you choose to pick something up. Can't recommend Bandcamp enough. But yeah, make sure you check all that out. Give Mad Queen a follow on all the social medias. Is there any last things you'd like to say before I let you get back to it?
Go listen to All Star while you're mowing today, if you can.
Boy, it is perfect mowing music now that I think about it, isn't it? Is that good? Is that good or bad?
I mean, if the tempo's faster, you get it done faster. So I don't know. Can you drive your mower a little bit faster? Yeah.
I can. I don't know about everybody else, but I can make that work.
Try it. Let us know.
I'll report back. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Thanks for your patience as we tried to get this interview scheduled. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you live out there.
Been a good time, Kent. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you so much for tuning in tonight, and thank you so much to Jaki Howser, aka Mad Queen, for joining us and talking about everything that she has going on, and also about Smash Mouth's Astro Lounge. I really hope that we convinced you to, if not love Astro Lounge, to at least dive in and listen to it with different ears, maybe with a little separation. You know, I hope maybe absence makes the heart grow fonder if you haven't listened to Astro Lounge for a little while. So make sure you check the comments section. I will reveal who we will be talking to in 2 weeks and what we will be talking about. So check that. And yeah, thanks so much for joining us. Thank you to Cincy Music once again for co-hosting and getting these out there. You know, live music is coming back. You should definitely be following Cincy Music everywhere that you can follow them to stay on top of, you know, who's going to be performing. I think there's just going to be a mad rush of artists to get on stage and a mad rush of music fans to get back out there and start seeing live music again. So you got to follow Cincy Music. They do amazing stuff. So thank you to them. And once again, thank you to you. Hopefully I will see you 2 Thursdays from now right here at 8 o'clock. Have a great rest of your Thursday evening and have a wonderful weekend. See you soon.